What's up, guys? So, tonight I wanted to stream about something that I encountered while visiting Facebook for the 3 seconds that I visit Facebook, which is to upload photos to make room in my camera roll or to find a picture. Well, the top story in my homepage was an exchange under one of my former teachers and a student who happens to be my contemporary. And it had to do with some kind of a meme. And of course, some folks interpreted it politically, which it makes sense. Because, we're still discussing the whole stuff about your health, being immune, so on and so forth. Well, my former teacher was not really participating actively on this thread. It was an exchange between my contemporary and then someone else who immediately I don't identify. And the picture that they had is one of those fictional photos. So I cannot tell if this person is our age, possibly a former classmate, or something like that. But what I do know is that this conversation resembled what I see very often in other spots, like, say, the YouTube comment section, Twitter, and occasional conversations that I may witness in person. Now, the thing that made me sad was that this particular teacher, after I left school and I was able to add them on social media, because when you're a student, you're legally not allowed to be on your teacher's profiles. I don't even think that you're allowed to have their phone numbers, but I may be misremembering. Anyway, I knew that this teacher had a particular inclination, and it didn't bother me because I personally don't have any inclinations, although some of the things that I value may make me appear like I have an inclination that favors one side over the other. But I have always made it abundantly clear that I do not identify with any religion, any political party, and I'm not sure I've gotten to make this video yet, but one of the things that I want to discuss is, why do we believe that we have to be bipartisan? Like, how can we possibly be happy picking a side when one side cannot encompass everything? Because you will never convince me that, hey, LFA, you'll never convince me that you can be fully happy with one affiliation. So why not be sincere about it and be like, hey, I think the idea of being bipartisan is a bad one because we're forcing people, in a sense, to be okay with things that they may not individually value, but we are the most agreeable for this person. And I'm thinking, no, how about if you don't define yourself as anything, because you can value things from both sides. And in present day, the thing that makes this difficult is that I see that one party is associated with the lesser of evils. And the reason being, if you disagree with them, it's like you disagree with having freedoms, having choices, having all those little things. And then the other side is associated with being ignorant, with not being pro people, pro, say, things like insurance and education being free, or like basically open to change. And that's primarily the way that we're taught in school, at least where I went to, that the politics of this country are. You have the left side, which is like, oh, we're open to change and we want to continue to not stick to the rules or something, because that's the whole idea that brings progress, whereas the right side is looked more as not willing to change. And I could see better when I was in school how that worked. And I felt like politics were actually something healthier. But these days, I see people just actively trying to prove that if you don't agree with one side, you're just an inherently evil person. And that's the thing that I have problems with. So, something that I witnessed on my former teacher's thread, where this is coming from, is that this person was actively bullying my classmate and also allowing for the person who was initially bullying my classmate by replying to the thread. They My teacher was allowing for this person to actively flame on my classmate, although my classmate was being respectful, just stating his opinion. But eventually it turned into a personal attack, and I don't understand why that has to be the way of things. And me personally, on the channel, occasionally I get that one fucking clown who tries to do the same thing to me, which is I'm trying to have an open conversation, sincere, no strings attached, but this fucking person always tries to make me seem like I'm evil, even if I'm agreeing with them, but I'm not stating that I'm agreeing with them. They take it so personal. And when I tell them, dude, I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just telling you that there's more to it than that, because that's the way that I like to think. I don't like to be limited to just my opinion and be like, no, if the flow of this conversation is not going to please my views, then this conversation is not happening. And I think that that is what keeps you trapped in your own mind, and you're not allowing yourself to grow. And I'm not saying that I'm the smartest person in the room or the most tolerant or basically the most of anything, but I am pretty confident about my ability to actually actively listen to what you have to say, where you're coming from, what made you arrive at that conclusion, and sometimes you can influence my own opinion. And if it's something that I didn't consider, that is when the conversation to me becomes very good quality. I love it when someone says something and it leaves me silent and I go like, you know what? I never thought about that. I'm glad that you said that because I wouldn't have considered it. That's how I know that this conversation is good and I'm growing, even if I'm agreeing with you, but especially if I'm disagreeing with you. I like to see that as confident as I was about my perspective, that there is still something out there that I can humble myself and be like, I have to respect what this person is saying. But in our current political landscape, I find that nearly impossible. And then that thing that somewhat hurt me, although I knew how this former teacher is, it just hurt me to see that he tolerates one of my classmates getting disrespected under his own profile and not speaking from an educator perspective. I had so much respect for this teacher. I definitely learned a lot from this teacher. So to see him being part of this weird mob like mentality that I keep seeing on social media that has become so popular and even celebrated to some extent, it disappoints me because if you hold the title of pedagogue, of teacher, of educator, of counselor, anything like that, I have expectations deposited onto you. And that is that even if I am no longer in your classroom, that you will still represent that job title with dignity, respect, pride, and all those things, especially in your personal life. Because in your personal life, that is when you're not really being governed by the rules of your employer, say the public school system or private school, whatever it is. I don't like to see people who are not consistent with what they represent. So, say, me personally, even though I'm antisocial, I will never really be actively rude to you unless you're that one stranger who, for some reason, approaches me thinking that we're just best buddies because you know me from my job, or you know me from seeing me at the gym at a distance, and then you see me somewhere else and you try to speak, and to me it feels like you're crossing a line. Like, that is the only time when I'll put my guard up and kind of reject some people. But when it comes to you, and you actually hold a very influential position like a teacher, that to me, it just hurts to see that this person tolerates someone being flamed on their profile. Because I'm thinking, if you're an educator, that is when you ought to be like, you know what, as your former teacher, even though we disagree politically, this other person who's disrespecting you, um, there is no room in my profile for disrespect, pretty much. That's what I would have liked to have seen. But I didn't see that. And this is not the only teacher I have seen do this. So I cannot help but think back to the time when I was a student and be like, was my teacher thinking and feeling this way the whole time? And they were just really pretending to be there for me and care for me and have my best interests in mind, because I was at a more vulnerable age when I was their student. You know, I was a minor when I was their student. So they had to really put up this facade, but it is to honor themselves getting a paycheck. If that really is the mentality, why do you get upset as this generation, or excuse me, at this generation, for having attitude problems and all of the things that we get criticized for as young people, when we go through your hands, when you're our guardians, educators, babysitters, whatever you want to call it, when our well-being was your responsibility, that you were in charge of, bestowed upon you, this is how you behaved. You were not genuine. So if we have trust problems nowadays and we don't enjoy having political discussions with you, maybe stop a second and consider how you performed during the days when we depended on you. So that's really what I'm trying to convey here with this topic. I'm not sure that I have made my point across quite yet, but what I'm saying is that seeing my former educator behave in this manner and even attempt to flame my classmate by saying, "Oh, why are you staying quiet about the responses that this troll is supplying you with?" I really hate when I see a discussion where one side is trying to prove that the other side is just wrong. Why are we constantly trying to prove that one idea is better than the other, as opposed to being like, you know what? You have your idea, I have my idea. Clearly, my idea is going to work for me. Your idea is going to work for you. How can we come together as members of this community and make decisions to where our ideas don't clash, but instead learn to live peacefully and coexist peacefully? But now, the political landscape, to me, it seems like you're at a constant war. And I really don't see how this is going to get us anywhere. And especially with the matter of the jab that's trending every single day, it's like, okay, there's some people out there who really invest a lot of time and energy into establishing that, okay, historically these things work, and this is what happens with your immune system, so on and so forth, the science. Okay, awesome. Then there's the people who place a lot of time, effort, energy, dedication into being like, nah, this doesn't work and this is why. And okay, they can build a compelling case in some instances, but this is where the clash begins. that I'm trying to express here, which is, well, you're evil for not believing in this and that, as opposed to being like, well, this person has very valid concerns that we may have the answer to some of those questions based on history, but some of them we may not. But then this other person is going to begin to insult the person who deposits all of their faith, all of their belief into the science, and then they try to criticize them and turn it into a more political matter, dismissing the science. Say, oh, you're going to allow your government to dictate over you, over your body, over your health, over this and that. And I'm thinking, well, what is it that you want? Sometimes you like the government because it sings and dances to your tune. But when it's disagreeing with you, it's like you pull out a completely different mask. You're a completely different person. You're just like this human being that I can barely label as a human being because you just resort to being offended, incredibly defensive. You're just dramatic, and then every single soul that you encounter that you may be under the belief that may be also in disagreement with you, like say people in customer service, you're thinking, I'm gonna get my anger out on these people who are still wearing masks, who are all of this stuff, like I don't get it. So again, that is something that I observed coming from folks who were my former teachers. So if my former teachers cannot for a moment when discussing politics not allow for their bias to like make them forget that human decency is important, then can we really be mad at our current generation for feeling defensive all the time? Because now, when I look at these teachers who I used to, again, admire, love, respect, so on and so forth, and this is who they are, I cannot help but think, what was this person really thinking during the time that they were taking care of me, that they were educating me, you know? And that's the part that I'm at a conflict because I remember being in their class and being like, this person is being professional. They're being transparent as much as possible, especially on classes where the issue of bias came up. So it made me think like, okay, I can coexist with a teacher that I may have a disagreement with, but I don't know if it's the exhaustion of the last 4 years or so that we have had, or if this is genuine an effect that say online presence is having on people that's legitimately altering your brain, altering how you think, how you speak, how you treat people. And that's the part that's got me like a little I don't even know what word I need in this instance, but it's like shocked, disturbed, sad, frustrated, disappointed. But at the same time, even if I had to unfortunately find out through social media, I'm still grateful because now I get to see, or rather remind myself, that appearances can be deceiving. But again, it just frightens me that I'm not getting a consistent picture of an individual. Like, sure, in the classroom, they got a job to do, so I guess out of fear of putting their job in danger, they're going to behave a certain way just to please policies. But then outside of that, it's like, nah, this is who I am, a complete troll, not really a nice person. And then I'm thinking, well, I've I've been at a conflict when it comes to, oh, should social media impact your employment? Of course, I think to a certain extent, if you're being a clear and present danger, yeah, a company can take action against you. But I also think that those are things that should be kept separate because if you're doing a great job at your job, I don't care what you do behind the scenes unless it happens in this format that I just shared about my teacher and my classmate being flamed and my teacher not doing anything. Like, if you're promoting verbal abuse, verbal violence, things like that, then I think that, okay, that could come off as an infraction. But, anyways, you guys, that's pretty much the meat of the topic. Hopefully, I conveyed it well. So, I'm going to catch up with some of your comments now. Hello, Jimmy. Hello, Garuda, King. When it comes to government, that's where citizens need to look at their nation's constitution. At least in the US Constitution, the point of it is to limit government's power and curb its tendencies. See, this is what makes this discussion so difficult for me, because there are things that I want to deposit more faith, trust, and power into the government. And an example would be the government's pocket is pretty fucking deep. Even if we're in debt, clearly there's money going into it. But how is that money being managed? Because, as we have discussed before, Jimmy, most people's problems revolve around money. And if you ask me, money being a problem is a problem that humans created, mankind created that problem. So it is a problem due to the distribution and those who hold it. So, like, if they hold it, clearly with great power comes great responsibility. Money became a source of power. And clearly, there's some people who just do not know how to handle it responsibly. That is a given. So, given that government has deep pockets and also power, why do we have to continue to struggle in this manner? That's when I think that citizens ought to be like, you know what, government? I don't necessarily want you to be controlling, but there are some things that I expect from you that I am not getting. What is the problem? And that's when I feel that we ought to make our demands be met. I'm not sure how, but in that instance, if I can give government some power to make something that I need and want to happen, I want to let it happen. And the most basic examples I can state right now would be education and health access to like treatment and care and stuff, without having to ruin myself financially. Because, again, just like I just said, money is something that mankind created, a problem that mankind created. Education is something that if I don't have at least a good bit of, it's going to lead me to live a miserable life given the construct of society. So, why would you not want to make people have access to this in an easy way, so that at least people can have a better shot at living fuller lives? Because I understand that not everyone can make it big, like, say, have millions on their bank account and whatever. That's not really the point. It's more about what is it that individuals need to feel that they're living full lives. Some people can make it with very little, but nobody should live under the anxiety of, oh my God, my health insurance is attached to my job. If I don't have a job, then I lose this benefit, this and that and the other. But also, to hold on to this job, I have to waste away for 40 hours a week, break myself down mentally and physically to then come home and not be a functional human being. And that's going to be the rest of my life until I turn 65 and 3/4. What? That just doesn't make sense to me. So if that's what people fight over, like how much power government has, I get it. And I know that sometimes I express myself in a way that may sound very like, what is it, romantic, like very fictional or whatever, because I really have that simplistic of a view about life. But my issue becomes when, for some things, we want the government to be there and aid us, so on and so forth. But for things that are actually good for you and positive for the community as a whole, we really actively fight against it. And that's the thing that makes me be like, well, I don't trust the government because they have messed up before, but also I don't trust people because some people's what is it, motivations may not be too honest. But so that's the thing that stresses me out about this topic, because you just cannot seem to read people. And the things that are actually positive, some people want to fight against it, and then they will cite things like, well, my taxes are going to go up. Well, like, where can we start to start changing things? And I feel like I made a video about that the other day. I'm like, okay, at what point can you start something without you feeling trapped about a prior debt or something? Yeah, so anyway, next comment. Um, the current state of the world is frightening. No one knows what's in store for us in the coming years or months. That is absolutely true. And that is something that when I was growing up, it seemed to me like everybody had a plan, everybody just knew what to expect and stuff. But now, I guess a handful of individuals have obtained so much power that they rule over our lives, and they decide what we eat, when we sleep, where we sleep, how much something costs, how much of your time is going to be invested doing something so that you can achieve something. It's kind of like a video game. Oh, you have to get to this stage, this level, so that you can unlock this and that and the other. So, of course, you have to invest time and go through the levels, okay, to reap the reward. But in real life is almost turning into a game itself. It's like, well, you have to spend this many hours doing this and that and the other and achieve this and that if you have any hopes of making a certain income or leveling up, becoming a veteran, getting a promotion. It's just a life of constant competition and stress. And if you're going to live a life in which you're just constantly being competitive, how can you possibly bond with people in a way that's not toxic? Because you're not looking at someone as a threat. And even within relationships, I don't know about you guys, but I have observed and even experienced, but fortunately rectified, instances where relationships turn into competition, especially amongst parents too. If you're the product of a like your parents are no longer married and stuff, it's like one of them is fighting for your love, for your attention, for your acceptance, for your empathy, your sympathy, and that shit doesn't change until they get old as shit, and until I get older too, for some reason. So even partners are competing against each other. So, like, what does it look like to be really teamed up, really partnered up, and not look at your partner as a goddamn threat? You know? So, if you guys ever wonder what I mean when I say that my depression was environmental, I'm not sure I ever phrased it like that, but now that I found the word, that's what it is. It's like just when you think that you're settling down and trusting someone and just finding a place that you can just fucking chill, you realize that it's not real. You know, like someone brings out their true colors or something, and it's scary. And that's the type of thing that brings uncertainty. And now, for instance, with the stuff that I just observed about my own teachers, I'm thinking to myself, well, if I were to have kids, who can I trust to educate them outside of myself? And even I have my limitations on what I ought to teach my child because I'm not an expert on those things. And given that I have to work, I won't be able to stay on top of everything and comprehend everything. Like, say, what's a good business decision? What's a good political decision? What's a good what is it, investment decision, so on and so forth. So now we have people saying things like, well, let's circle back to relationships. It's like, well, there's so much divorce going on, and I'm thinking, whoa, there's also so many marriages that are still pulling through and staying together. So it goes back to what I was saying earlier on in the stream, proving something while disproving another thing. Like, if you're going to talk about the failing marriages, you have to talk about the marriages that are working. If you're going to talk about the cars that are breaking down, you have to talk about the ones that are new and not breaking down. So if you're going to talk about, say, the state of people's health, it's like, okay, what about the people who are living healthy lives? What are they doing that you aren't doing? Like, it sucks to live that way. Anything that you say at any fucking time, someone is looking for something to misinterpret or twist or bend and be like, well, if you're not actively condemning this evil thing, therefore you must be agreeing with it. What? How do you know what my opinion is on something if we haven't even gotten there? You're just finding that because you just have so much garbage in your mind. Or maybe your mind is just traveling a little faster. But but that's what I see the social media landscape has turned into. It's a matter of, if you, it kind of like what Anakin said, if you're not with me, you are my enemy, or whatever he said in that one, episode 3. um so you know I don't know, hopefully it doesn't happen so bad to you guys. Maybe you have better surroundings, better friends, better former teachers or something. I hope that you do. But I'm seeing this so warily often. And then a handful of people who I'm like close with in person, they have shared with me similar stories. I haven't heard anyone talk about their former teachers, but there's some folks who say, oh, like, I have a really evil uncle who used to not be that way. And I'm thinking, well, as a child, that's not the type of thing that you should be exposed to. That's not the type of, I guess, toxicity that you should be exposed to, like, say, adults discussing politics. Of course, we all witnessed at some point maybe your grandparents having a disagreement, your uncles having a disagreement, family members just having their little feuds. But you, as a kid, at least on my case, I was pretty privileged to not have had those feuds directly affect me. And I guess it was because my mom did a good job about, I guess, being a good manager about those matters. And my family was also pretty considerate about that. Like, hey, the children are here. This is not about them, it's not against them. So I have to give them points there. But now, as adults, I find that people who have never talked to me again ever since I was a fucking child, you have never bonded with me, never talked to me on the phone, never asked me who I am, what I like, where I'm at, what I do, so on and so forth. There's people who are heavily opinionated about me on the basis of who they know I talk to, based on whomever informs them of my whereabouts, what I wear, where I work. And I'm thinking, go fuck yourself. Because if you want to live being that way, your deductionism is pretty bad. If only you were creating these opinions based on compelling evidence that you dug up yourself, awesome. But that was part of my depression, you guys. Like, when people would not get to know me, but they would get to know me through others, and then God knows what others are choosing to share. No, get to know that person directly. And it was frustrating to hear my family having so much opinion about me. And these motherfuckers know nothing about me. You don't know who I'm dating. You don't know where I'm working, what I'm doing. You only know like a little bit of whatever bullshit you're being told from secondhand. you know? So anyway, so that's one of those things that I see the landscape is like. Let's see. God, I really hope I don't start sneezing because I can feel my nose beginning to itch. Um, so if people are basing their gripes on that, then maybe their gripes are about government overreach, in which case they have a valid gripe. So yeah, yes, but also no, because discussing government is something that is undoubtedly not that simple because, okay, me personally, let's talk about government spending for 1 second, and I'm going to limit it to just one little thing: military budget. A lot of people object that. Me personally, I value the fact that we're not having dog fights on our skies. I value the fact that there's not stuff exploding daily. I have a home to come to that's not like crumbling. It doesn't have any crumbling walls and stuff. I also value the fact that even domestically, because we know that we have the occasional domestic evil person plotting an attack on their own compatriots. Did you guys remember that one guy from Spokane who like created this freaking bomb and he was trying to detonate it during like a Martin Luther King march or something? I forget when this happened. I want to say it was like 2010ish, but I may be wrong. Anyway, this person planned something absolutely terrible. He took the time to create these freaking bombs that it could have poisoned people, it could have hurt people. It probably would have been one of the worst domestic attacks in the history of this country. If the taxes that I'm paying, the money that I'm giving to the government, is being invested into stopping individuals like these, I'm all for it. Because I definitely value my safety, the safety of my family, the safety of my community. The like I shouldn't have to go out and fear coming back home healthy the way that I left. But also, because there's always another side to everything. When it comes to, let's say, international threats, clearly we have a lot of enemies. And usually when we discuss the military budget, I hear people limiting it to just that, like, oh, we have threats from like these other countries, from so and so continent and whatever. And I'm thinking, what about the domestic threats though? Do you guys even consider how much work some individuals do to keep us safe in a domestic level? And to make it even worse, we don't have enough manpower to ensure that we remain safe at all times. And that's why we keep having these little occasional things slip through the cracks and the occasional attacks that do happen by citizens from this very nation against citizens of this very nation. Like, so if that's something that I'm giving government power over to do, I am happy with that investment. I do not object that our military budget has to be that freaking high. And I wish that anytime people would cite how much money we give them, I'm thinking, well, unfortunately, given our history and our politics and our beliefs, we have a lot of enemies. And we also have people who are not very stable within our borders. So if we are investing into keeping that somewhat under control, I'm happy with that. So that would be an example in which I don't want to take away power from the government, but there's going to be the occasional person who's going to be like, well, if you give government too much power and weapons and tools, and what about us? They can use that against us and whatever. Well, if we have to have another civil war, that maybe we're condemned to lose given how formidable our military is technologically, then oh well. But what are the chances of that actually happening? Like, how under threat from that are we? Because I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I have never woken up in the morning, gotten in my car, and see a fucking tank like rolling, treading by right across from my car on my driveway. So, like the last time I saw a military plane in person, it was like parked, deactivated, not flying. So, I've never even seen one of those freaking jets actually hover the skies that I have been a resident of. So like I wasn't in the New York area when September 11 happened, but I've never seen that within our skies. So if my investment is helping prevent that, I am happy. And if the government really wanted to own us like that, don't you think they would have fucking done it already? They've had plenty of chances. But anyway, so again, if you have a discussion like that somewhere, some random fool who may overhear you, or say if you're writing this on social media, someone is going to find a way to try to prove you wrong and completely miss the point of the discussion. So at that point, that's when I can't help but wonder, what is your intent with having these discussions? Are you just a pessimist? Or do you deep down see that I have a compelling point? But then that's when you have no choice but to resort to like insults, because you really cannot contribute a point anymore. See? So that's the part of me that makes me be antisocial to a degree. I don't waste time with fools like that. Um, I would like to believe in the government, but they are the biggest gang on earth. And see, as I have mentioned before, the thing that frustrates me about government in general is they spend an awful lot of time in every single one of their shifts talking about the things that they are not going to do. That is the thing that makes me upset with them immediately. In my view, the answer is to return most power and therefore resources to the states, not the federal government. Philip was saying that the other night, actually. He was saying that states ought to have more power. And it makes sense. I mean, states have their little reserved powers. And given that we're a vast land, it is obvious that some states need to have their own little things happening, especially considering things like the weather. Super dynamic. You cannot have like something systematic, like say snow protection for people in Florida when they don't see that, things like that. So some things are going to have to be rewritten and laws need to just change. But we shouldn't look at that as an effort to disunite us. So in a sense, the conflict from all them years ago, generations ago, about, well, each state should maybe become their own little country or something, it's like, I can understand the sentiment, but I also feel like it's just a matter of coming together. But that's what I'm not seeing, especially these days. We are terribly divided. So how can we even begin to come together? Especially if we're having trouble just loving each other, these days. So anyway, that's an oversimplification, right? But anyway. Then the states and counties can focus the resources into what their communities need. And that is so true, because in my local setting, good grief, I have seen the changes in just 8 years. I have seen some dramatic changes, like some places that used to be lit, now they're run down. And I understand that some of it is like worldwide disease related, but but some of it is just wealth needs to be redistributed. That's all I'm gonna say. The richer some people get, the poorer people get. That's true. Such as public health, etc., build rehab clinics and programs for the homeless off the streets, for example. Is it true that the homeless are actually actively being arrested now? Can anybody confirm that? I know I heard someone say something about that, that they were trying to just jail up everybody. Yes, there are legal mob. What's up with the crown? I don't know what's going on here. Oh, so the crown, it's become kind of an accessory for me because Garuda, he used to leave me, at least with some frequency, comments where he described me as my queen, like hello queen, or looking great queen, or great points queen. Anyway, he kept saying queen, 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 and then I said, that's something that I hear with some frequency, even outside the channel. So I thought about the fact that I never worn a tiara, and I've always been curious about one of those. And then I said, well, tiaras look kind of like a crown. So I have begun to implement it as an accessory. It's not permanent. Like, I don't do this for every video, but sometimes I'm like, well, my hair looks like shit. Let me wear a tiara. Well, my hair looks kind of nice. Let me wear it. So on and so forth. So, in a sense, it's kind of a joke, but also, one of the things that gave me the push to wear it is that I've never seen a video on YouTube of anybody wearing one. I'm not saying that no one ever has done a video wearing one, because I'm pretty sure that if I were to look up bridal concepts, bridal videos, bridal content, then I will see one come up. But anybody vlogging, anybody ranting, rambling, I've honestly never seen someone wearing a tiara. The only thing I have seen is the people who have them headphones with the little cat ears. I've seen those, but like nothing like this. So I said, well, given that a tiara is a accessory usually limited to things like birthday celebrations, marriages, or royal family shit, I said, well, why not wear one? So in a sense, I'm getting used to it because it's not the most comfortable thing in the world for me. But yeah, that's where it came from. I think I made a video explaining where it was coming from, but I don't remember what I called it. I think I called it Tiara Review, something like that. Is this a costume party? You know what? I would be painfully unimaginative at throwing a costume party, because the last time I had a legit costume, it was when I was like 9 years old, and my costume was Yu-Gi-Oh! And his outfit wasn't even accurate. It was fucking purple as opposed to navy ish. And then his mask was like a face with his, shape made of freaking plastic, and then the mouth part was like open, and that was it. I don't even remember what the eyes were like. Of course, they had to have a hole somewhere for me to be able to see, but that was the last time I ever did anything remotely resembling having a costume. So, and then you guys know that I don't do any kind of production effort on any of my videos, so don't look forward to that. I don't think I could do a costume thing. Zem is a princess. Where are the earrings, Zem? The earrings are somewhere. Honestly, I didn't wear them only because since I have my hair kind of like loose, um, they very easily get caught with my hair. So the only time it's better for me to wear earrings is, especially the dangling kind, is when my hair is like completely tight. But given that I washed it, I have to leave it a little bit loose. So the part that's loose is the part that's still drying up, and then the part that's braided is the part that's already dry. So my hair is kind of weird like that. Like, this gets dry faster than this. Maybe that's where it's thicker. I don't know. I am trying to reach out to my sister this month. I guess you mean month. Good luck, Greta. Joined late, but glad to see you live. I hope you are doing well. Yeah, I read it. I read it right, but I guess we had a typo there. Hello, JP, and yeah, I have been trying to be live more often, but it's difficult. Like right now, I should be in bed because I have to get up only at 5 a.m. in the morning. But I really had to get this off my system because otherwise I would probably be thinking about it and not sleep, which I already don't usually sleep much, but also I really miss streaming. Like I remember a time when I could do it pretty consistently, but it's become one of those hobbies that I've had to sacrifice because my schedule is different, and I'm also trying to do other things to like make money. And in a sense, I never get to do the things that I like to do for fun, including being on the channel. So no matter what, I'm trying to like force myself to go back into doing the things that I like. And when I say force, I don't mean that this is requiring effort from me, not at all. But basically I felt guilty anytime I was indulging on a hobby. So streaming slash making videos became one of those things. It's like, well, I'm gonna have to sacrifice this because I gotta be responsible and build up on other things. And I hate that because I definitely don't feel as happy. I'm more stressed. I don't sleep as much. I gain weight very often. And yeah, it makes me a little miserable. But then I said, well, I need to figure out a balance. So this is the effort in an effort to bring the balance. It's an experiment I'm doing. I believe in the anarchist code. Antifa are rainbow liberal socialist. They are not anarchist. As much anti-government as I can, I guess, tend to be or sound like, I cannot say that I could live under an absolute lack of government and stuff, only because I have experienced having good leadership. So, say good leadership or rules are enforced and creates a good balance. I like that sense of direction, organization, unity, but depending on what kind of anarchist place we may become, that's what I fear. I fear about who we could trust or turn to for guidance. And I feel like government is meant to be that massive guidance, but unfortunately, it's just not inherited by the right people. Things like nepotism ruin it. So I'm that kind of person who I've never had problems obeying authority, following instructions, respecting rules, because I see the benefit. If I understand the benefit of something, how something is actually there in an attempt to protect me and my well being and all those things, I value that stuff. So, will an anarchist society be that way? You know, like lack of government, lack of, would that mean lack of security, lack of guidance, lack of organization? Or would an anarchist society be something like, hey, everybody does their own thing, but somehow, that just works? Everything is balanced out. There's no violence. There's no. What would that look like? And even though we have violence now with so called government and their leadership, but would anarchism really be the way to go? I'm not sure about that one. I would have to think about it. Let's see. A poignant conversation tonight. Interesting. Lil Zam got flavor. Back off, my queen. Never underestimate the ability of the government to track its citizens. I cannot remember where I read that statement. Any help? The luxuriousness is not weird ever. The voice of Snake Eyes. I was thinking about you when I considered trimming my hair, but then I said I trimmed it recently and my ends are still like not split, so I decided to not do anything to it. But yeah, luxuriousness indeed, because I'm letting it grow, and by the time the winter time rolls over, it should be like it's right here right now, right? So by Decemberish, it should be like yeah, because I can grow my hair in 10 minutes. Watch. um, my favorite is this one guy I used to work with. He doesn't work with us anymore, but he can grow this fucking epic beard in a matter of days. I'm talking about full face, bushy as fuck, but for the life of him, he cannot grow hair on top of his head. So I said, well, clearly I cannot grow a beard for reasons that I am grateful for, but if you give me like my 15 minutes, my hair will grow. And I remember that the last time I made a video, um before this last video I made about my hair being dry without any product for a day, I remember that this was as far as I could pull my hair, something like this. And now this piece has grown. And I don't even notice it. I just realized that when I'm brushing my hair, I have to go like lower, lower, a little lower. So I never really understand the rate of my hair growth, but it happens. And I remember that I was trying to do like my imitation beard, and it was significantly shorter. But anyway, yeah, that's my hair rambling. Um, Maybe Spy Games with Robert Redford. No, never cut that. Don't worry, I would never do a pixie cut only because I know I would look dumb as hell. The only time I have considered it is due to Halle Berry's influence. I've thought, is my hair type the same as her in the 90s when she used to have her hair short? I've wanted to experiment that and try that because I really don't know what kind of curls I have, but I don't think that we have the same hair type. So before I do something extremely regrettable, I just haven't dared. And I remember that in 2012, my hair used to be shoulder length. And I liked it until, since my hair is just thick, it kind of takes a mushroom shape as it grows. And I hate that because it wants to like poof out like this. So I'm not sure if by trimming it and I guess drowning it in product, I'm not sure that would keep it from looking shitty like that. But if somehow I can trim my hair to where it looks relaxed, like it's right now, when it's damp, then I would do it. But the problem is that this hair that you guys see now, as it keeps drying, this is not what it's gonna look like. Eventually, it's gonna take like a mind of its own, and I'm going to have zero control over it. And I really, really, really hate that poofed out look. So, so that's why I don't take any dares, and I don't trim it shorter than whatever you guys saw a couple of weeks ago when I had it freshly trimmed. And I do remember the last time I had it like shoulder length, because people here do not know how to cut curly hair. They keep going like, and oh, that's why I started doing my own haircut. But yeah, don't worry, my hair ain't going nowhere unless it just falls out for environmental reasons. um, I agree with Snake Eyes. I thought you said she was a princess. My beard is pretty epic. You know, that you guys are either going to agree or disagree, but I think James Harden has the most epic beard ever. It's that one basketball player. Um, Shit, I forgot what team he plays for, but I think that his beard is the freaking coolest. But see, the thing about me and beards is I really don't like them when they're like bushy. I prefer for them to be like closer to the face, like that length. But there are some people who have beards that are like long and bushy that somehow it looks good on them. And I think James Harden is an example, is the exception to that rule. Um, but there's people who unfortunately have like longer mustaches, but the beard is shorter. If you have a mustache that's like more abundant than your like cheek hair, that annoys the hell out of me. I like to see consistency. But of course, having cheek hair but no mustache is an absolute no-no. You look like a clown. But unfortunately, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but as much as I like straight hair, I don't really like beards that are like bushy, but they're like Dumbledore kind of long. You know, Harry Potter, Dumbledore, the movies, that kind of beard, even if it's like at this length, I don't know what it is, but like relaxed hair, straightish hair, beard, I don't like it that much. So sorry if that's you, but I'm not going to sit there and bully you over your appearance, but I'm probably gonna be like wishing other things were happening on your face. So when it comes to facial hair, my favorite stage of facial hair is the stubble. Nothing can beat that. But if you're gonna have like a bushy beard, if you don't have a James Harden beard going on, I'm not interested in it. So I'm not sure I have rambled about beards before, so hopefully you guys didn't mind that. Um, King Solomon of the Bible fell deeply in love with a gorgeous lady whom apparently had luscious hair as yours. He wished upon stars a kiss of her lips. It's a romantic escape. I really do not know what category of curls I have. Like, clearly this is curly, but how curly is this? Because there's curlier than this. There's wavy, but there's also the woolen kind of curly. Like, those are the most compact, coarse feeling curls that clearly I don't have. So I need to like study slash examine a guide of curly hair degrees because I have never known how to describe my own hair. Of course, I always say curly, but what kind of curls can you anticipate? And then straight hair is like, okay, boom, straight. But then there's like straight with waves in the end. And then there's like wavy, and then there's a step beyond wavy. There's the kind of waves that looks like kind of like beach style hair. You guys know what I'm talking about? It's like them kind of waves that are like more pronounced than what I have going on. So I wish I knew the terms for every single like stage of curly hair because there's more to curly hair than just saying it's curly hair. So so yeah, it's interesting how you can have so many different forms of something. Thanks, I will look it up. Had to cut it recently, those stupid masks, and I neglected it, but it will return. Yay! See, when it comes to beards and stuff, that's something that kind of concerned me when it came to the mask mandate because I always thought, well, unfortunately, some guys may not be like fully benefiting from wearing a mask because you're not allowing for it to like I guess, attach to your face the way it's supposed to, because depending on the length of your facial hair, it kind of messes up the mask's ability to like seal you off, whatever. But then I also said, well, but I'm a sucker for facial hair. So your mask might make it seem like you have facial hair anyway. but at the same time, I thought I cannot imagine having to do that. Like me personally, if for some reason I had facial hair like that, it's like, oh man, this is something that enhances my appearance. And although my appearance is the first thing to go out the window because of masks and stuff, it's like, in a sense, the government is having power over my appearance because of these mandates. But I mean, it's all for a good cause, right? But I had thought about that. I'm like, well, there's some guys who just they have to get rid of their facial hair. But I'm guessing a lot of them didn't. But oh well. You guys do what you gotta do or what you feel like doing. James Harden and Rick Ross bit my style, period. I've been rocking a beard since high school. I know the name Rick Ross, but I don't have a face attached to the name. Rick Ross. Oh, I feel so bad every time I see a name and I don't have a picture of the person. Look up Marco Hayatella and his Viking beard. If the Viking beard is exactly what I just described that I don't like, then I know what you're talking about. Because it's that Dumbledore-ish. When I hear Viking style beard, that's what I think. It's like bushy and don't even get me started on adding accessories to your beard. Oh, some of you guys do that, and no offense, it looks like buffoonery to me. Like it's kind of like those things that you could put on your hair, like beads and stuff. What are you guys doing? Why are some of you putting beads on your beards? And of course, the almighty tie. Some of you guys tie your freaking beards. Like, I get it when they become obnoxiously long. That's something you can do. But I feel like long hair belongs here and not here. Like, what are you guys doing? But anyway, that's just me, of course. I'm sure that there's some women out there who would love that stuff. But I'm just saying that me personally, I'm not one of them. So, but yeah, I'll have to look up those names because I cannot say I know that person. Well, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I should consider skedaddling for my rest, I guess, which I highly doubt I'll really get that much sleep tonight. But yeah, it was fun. Hopefully, you guys got something out of this topic, and it certainly helped me feel better. Only because I guess I'm going through that stage in life where I'm seeing things just change, and I'm having like that moment of wow, this is what life is about. Like stuff changes, people change, you change, and stuff that used to not concern you when you were younger now becomes a concern. And it's just something that it just takes a minute to accept and adjust to and be like, holy shit, I'm aging. So I'm gonna be right there with all of those conditions and having to make those decisions, and my landscape is going to be different. But basically, to sum it all up, same dynamic, different assholes. So like I'm headed in that direction. But it's just different when you stop for a second and actually think about what is happening. And of course, like the next stage in life is the aging of your parents, and then your aging, and then things like that. So because we're so caught up on our days, it's easy to like forget that that's something that's happening. And then with my birthday recently, it's like, oh, right, time doesn't stop for anybody. Have a good night. Looking forward to see you soon. I'm looking forward to being back as well. I'm gonna try to eventually stream at random times. So maybe in the morning, then maybe in the evenings, and then at nighttime. I always found that if I streamed at nighttime, since like 2016, I get more traffic. So I guess that's when you guys tend to be more available as well. For me, the evenings are usually the most difficult time. Evening meaning that period between like dark, light, and dark. But that's usually when people are at home and people can be around, but I can't be. But anyway, I'll keep it in mind, and any opportunity I get, just own it. Good night, lovely. Glad I could catch you live. Same here. I feel like I don't get to chat with you particularly very often, so thanks for stopping by. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.